We forgot to mention that part. We grew up 7 kids under the age of 5.
Here we go with feelings and needs mattering. But we're saying yours do too. It's not yours matter more than everybody else.
There's not one thing that's going to be the protection.
By the way, I have a crazy thing to share.
They always told us, if someone kidnaps you, or if you're alone in the room with someone, run away, scream, say no.
I definitely used to do this too before I knew and understood.
My body's physiological response was freeze. I wanted my legs to run, but they were frozen.
Most people are kind of like, when you say that, they're like, what? No. I think most of us are terrified for our children to experience this.
Their needs about their bodies come first. Period. End of sentence.
Your child has nobody else to advocate for them. Literally nobody else.
Welcome to Silent No More. I'm your host, Yati, and I'm so glad you're here. This podcast is about listening to the voices of survivors of child sex abuse with the goal of raising awareness, educating our communities, and challenging the silence that allows abuse to thrive. Whether you're a parent, educator, survivor, or ally, or simply someone who wants to understand this issue better, this space is for you. Before we begin, please know that this episode includes sensitive content, including discussions of trauma and abuse. This podcast is intended for adult audiences age 18 and over. Please take care while listening. Hi, Blimie. Welcome to my podcast.
Hi, Yati. So fun to be on your podcast.
So fun. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. I'm Blimie Heller, a parenting coach and educator who is super passionate about supporting parents and building relationships with their children based on respect and trust. That's like my tagline. I like it short and sweet. And I think it describes, what my passion is and what I do.
So like respectful parenting.
Exactly. That's my passion, is educating parents and supporting parents really to raise their children with respect.
I'm so excited to have this discussion. And by the way, we're sisters. We forgot to mention that part.
I think we look like sisters.
You're like, everyone's gonna know.
I think so.
Really?
I think so. I'm curious if people.
Yeah, let us know. Did you know that we were sisters based off our looks?
Yeah.
So Blimie is actually 2 years older than me. We grew up 7 kids under the age of 5. My mother had 7 kids under the age of 5 when she was 24. So we were like all very close order, and we went to high school together, elementary school together, and we had a lot of childhood experiences together. Lots of fun ones. Okay, so today we're talking about how respectful parenting can prevent child sex abuse. Now, I know nobody wants their child to be sexually abused as a child, or I hope nobody wants their child to be sexually abused. And this is a way to do what you can to avoid that from happening.
Yeah, like I think what I'm hearing you say is that obviously we don't have a way to guarantee it doesn't happen, and we don't have full control over anything, but this is something that we can do that could really make a difference and could really prevent it in some circumstances, or in many maybe.
Yeah. I think the basis and idea of respectful parenting in itself has inherent skills and values that go into abuse prevention.
Exactly. And I would venture to say not only sex abuse prevention, but also all kinds of abuse.
Right.
That's why I like that you said the word
Right.
abuse, because I think it's abuse prevention in many ways.
Right. I was thinking also along the lines of people getting married, getting into abusive relationships. 100%. Let's go into it. I think to start, it shows the child their inherent worth and what kind of behaviors they want to accept and what they don't.
Yeah, exactly. Because if we treat them as somebody who deserves to be treated with respect, because like you said, they have worthiness, they take that in. That's the experience they know. They know I am worthy and I deserve to be treated with respect. That's what I want. And it makes it so much more likely that they'll recognize when somebody doesn't treat them with respect. And like you said, they won't want to accept. They're also much more likely not to want to accept it because they're like, I don't need this. I know that I don't have to accept this. There's so many more beautiful ways that people relate to me, and I'd prefer that.
Right. It will be foreign to them. It will be just something they don't even want to go near at all. Obviously, it's not foolproof, right? Like abuse is very manipulative and anyone could fall into it, but it definitely keeps them safer.
I love that you said that. I love that you said that, like, anyone can fall into it. I really think that it's such an important point to reiterate because I think sometimes people fault themselves for falling into it or like fault whatever it is. None of these things are a guarantee. Like humans are humans and we're very fickle, I guess. Like anything can happen to us, but these things could make it much less likely that it will happen. But of course, anything's possible. And yeah.
Exactly. One of the points I like to educate about, and really any child sex abuse educator says, and of course, there's many things that go into it. There's not one thing that's going to be the protection. One thing is allowing your children to say no and teaching them how to say no. Before someone is sexually abused or sexually abused as a child, there's grooming that goes on. It doesn't go 0 to 100 in one day. It starts slowly. It starts with a little bit of an inappropriate touch just to see how the child reacts. And then it's a little closer and it's gifts and it's taking the child on a trip and touching their thigh by mistake. If a child knows how to say no from the get-go and know that they are worthy, their wants and needs are worthy of saying no, especially to an adult that they trust and love, then they will be able to say no, even when it's so small. But they'll know that they feel uncomfortable. There's so many layers to this. It's hard to break down, but they'll know that they feel uncomfortable, which is also respectful parenting. They'll feel it won't feel comfortable to say no. It's not gonna feel comfortable. It never feels comfortable, but they'll be more comfortable to say no, and they'll show the predator, like, "No, I am not okay with this." Right? That's why it's important for children to say no, and just, like, my personal experience with this is my parents actually told me and us, you remember this, they always told us, if someone kidnaps you or if you're alone in the room with someone, run away, scream, say, "No, this isn't my mother, this isn't my father." And I know there's physiological responses of fight, flight, freeze. And yes, my body's physiological response was freeze. And did not say no when it came down to it. When I was being abused, I wanted to say no. I wanted my legs to run, but they were frozen. So I understand that I was in that freeze state, but I do think that if I had more practice saying no, and like a lot of probably millennials and boomers who were raised in authoritarian households, and this is not to bash my parents, I think this was just pretty mainstream how most people grew up, how most people were parented, was that children do not say no. They listen to adults. Otherwise, it's disrespectful. And so that's the lens I had because that's how I was treated. And I do think that if I had more practice saying no and I felt worthy enough to say no, of course, there's more to it. But I think I might have maybe been able to break that physiological free state I was in,
Mm.
and that's why I think it's important.
Yeah, like you never know, but you have the thought that at some point you would have been able to say no or been able to, yeah. Yeah. Oh my, there's so many points I want to like sort of highlight and expand on what you said. So first, let's talk about children saying no to their parents. Yeah, like a lot of us were raised exactly. You don't say no to parents; it's disrespectful. And because of that, I think a lot of us really inherited that belief, and we really like, oh my gosh, wait. First of all, isn't that totally disrespectful for a child to say no to their parent? That's first of all. But there's also another aspect where I think it's just practically they're like that doesn't make any sense. Like you run a household, you're the parent, you need to make sure things get done. If you just say no to you all the time, like that's just not normal. So what? They're just not going to take a bath. They're just not going to do their homework. Like I think people go there in their minds. So for me, if let's say you have some sort of like for you, like saying no is considered disrespectful, the point is it's a child basically voicing objection, right? Basically saying, I don't feel comfortable with this. I don't want this. Can you hear what I have to say? That's what we're talking about. It doesn't necessarily mean saying no. If you want to teach your child a respectful way to do that, by all means, you can do that. It's basically the idea is that your child should be able to voice when they don't like something, when something feels uncomfortable to them, etc. Now, about the part that you're like, okay, but then like things just need to get done. I don't, too bad. Like, I need to make sure is yeah, when Yiti and I are talking about this idea of our children being able to voice their no or to voice basically their resistance or their like, I don't want this, I don't like this, then it's not the end of the conversation. It just means that a child feels that they're able to, that they have, like you said, that they have practice. They know what it feels like to be able to say that to an authority figure, someone who actually they respect and they love. And they know that they know how to because we've allowed them to. And it's not the end of the conversation. We can then listen to them, we can work it out, we can collaborate, we can say, I know, and we're still going to do whatever it is. But the fact that we allow for it, we allow that first step of them being able to voice it and then we move with it. It's not the end of the conversation. Both of us, I think, raise our kids in a respectful way. Both of our kids are able to voice their resistance or, I don't like this, I don't want this. And our children still take showers and baths and have, well, now they're older, but like even when they were younger, right? And they still did their homework and they still went to school and like things still happened. It's just a different way of doing it. It wasn't like, I'm the parent, you can't say anything, be quiet and do it. It was just a different way of going about it. That's what we're talking about. Okay, there were also so many layers in what you said, which you said, and it's so hard to break down. There were two sort of other things that I heard in what you were saying, where you said that a child will, when a child, like someone touches them or does something, they trust their instincts or something like that. Like you said, like they know that it feels uncomfortable. They actually can tell, like, I don't like this, which is another layer. There's like one layer of being able to say no, like you said. And there's another layer of even knowing that, hey, like I can actually check with myself to see if I like it. And if I don't like it, I'm actually able to, like, it means something. I matter. My needs matter. Really, my feelings and my needs matter. That's really what it is. And respectful parenting is exactly that. It's over and over again, we're sending the message your feelings matter, your needs matter, your feelings matter. We're not saying your feelings and needs run the show. Again, very, very often, like I've been working in this for 10 years. Well, I can't believe so long. I know I hear the objections parents come with. I have a lot of compassion for their objections, but I understand. I know where our mind goes to when we hear new ideas. And a lot of times it's like, oh my gosh, here we go with feelings and needs mattering. Like, are you saying that then our children's feelings run the show and we have to tiptoe around their feelings? And no, that's not what we're saying at all. Saying that someone's feelings and needs matter doesn't mean just opposite. We're saying everyone's feelings and needs matters. Yours does, and your sibling, and your parents, and the other person. Everyone's does. In a way, actually, it's a way of caring and respecting everyone. But we're saying yours do too. It's not yours matter more than everybody else. Yours also matter. And when we raise our children with respect, really the whole approach that I talk about is really all about your feelings matter, your needs matter. Not that I'm necessarily going to give you everything you want all the time, not at all, but your feelings and needs still are super important. And then there was another aspect that, like, also with the body and body autonomy, that, like, if I don't like how something feels in my body, basically I've been raised in a way to check if something feels good in my body and to say if it doesn't. And this is where we talk about the idea of like respecting our children's wants or, yeah, around affection specifically, right?
Their bodies.
Yeah, their bodies.
I think that there's this feedback loop when children are raised not to recognize how they feel about things and that they can say no. I think it ends at a certain point. So if I touch them and they feel uncomfortable, they feel icky, and then they might get anxious or angry or whatever, but they will not internalize that, oh, that felt uncomfortable because I didn't like being touched. It stops. I don't think it fully completes the loop, and they're not used to it. Like it's a muscle that has to be practiced.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing you say is basically that a child, any person, if someone touches them in a way that feels uncomfortable, they feel uncomfortable. They feel icky. That comes up in their body because that's what the body does. It communicates to us. But they won't take it further. They won't know what to do with that information. They won't necessarily even know how to listen to that information. Like that?
Yeah, they might not even recognize what it means.
Exactly.
They won't recognize what it means. They won't know what to do with that information, and it's not like they're going to suddenly grow up and be adults and know how to say no. This is how we raise people pleasers. I did a story on my Instagram, and I asked my followers, like, do you have a hard time saying no as an adult? And most of them said yes. And very understandably so. If you can't say no as a child, you're not suddenly going to turn 18 or 20 or get married and know how to say no, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's also regular abuse prevention because it relies on someone not being able to voice their boundaries also and say like, no, I'm not going to tolerate this. I don't want this, but yeah. We were talking about the body thing about, yeah, like respecting children's body autonomy.
Yes. So you want me to talk about it. So I think this is specific to children's bodies, respecting what they want done to their bodies, what they want do or don't want done to their bodies. From a teeny age, babies, obviously we have to change diapers. We have to give them baths, and there's a way to talk to them about it. I'm not saying you have to ask your 3-month-old baby for consent to change your diaper, but while you're doing it, you could say, I'm changing your diaper because you're dirty and you need a diaper change. And I know this is so uncomfortable when little children don't want to hug their grandparents, don't want to kiss their aunts and uncles. It's so uncomfortable. I know because I've been there. It's so uncomfortable. Like, you just want to be like, oh my gosh, just freaking hug your grandmother, grandfather. But it's a very dangerous thing to do because what you're basically telling your child that their needs don't matter. Their uncomfortability specifically to what is done with to their body, how they feel in their body when it's touched doesn't matter. Other person's needs come first, which is a huge part of grooming because they feel bad for the abuser. They feel like, oh, but the abuser wants it. I'm going to make them feel bad and sad and whatever. Children need to know that their needs about their bodies come first. Period. End of sentence. It's basically teaching them consent.
Right, exactly. So it's interesting because I mentioned the word affection specifically, and you were like bodies in general, which I'll tell you why I said affection. I'm curious why you said that.
Mm,
Because often when I say like our children need to know their bodies belong to them and that you're not supposed to do anything to their body that they don't want, parents are like exactly what you said, but they need to take baths. But sometimes they need to leave the park and I need to pick them up and take them because they're just refusing, or I need to put them in the car seat or whatever it is. So yeah, so for me, it's like the distinction of affection. Like there is no reason in my mind why a child needs to hug another person. No reason other than exactly what you said, because the other person's feelings for some reason or needs trump theirs, which is not true. Why is the grandmother or the grandfather's feelings more important than the child's feelings? The child feels discomfort and the parent feels sad, and the thing will feel sad or hurt because they. Why is an adult's hurt more important than your child's discomfort? And so to me, that's it's a very clear boundary. Like when it comes to affection, even with parents' affection, even me as a parent,
right.
if I wanna hug my
Mhm.
child and my child doesn't want it, why does my wanting to be affectionate towards them matter more than their discomfort? Like, their discomfort matters just as much, and it's like, no, if they don't want to. Exactly. And like you said, abusers, I think even not only is it a huge thing, I think sometimes they even capitalize on it. Is that the right word? Like they might even say like, "But I'll feel so sad if you don't do that. I'm gonna be so whatever," right? And sometimes parents do this too. "Please give me a hug. I'm gonna feel so
Yeah.
sad if you don't give me a hug." And again, I have so much compassion for parents who say that. Like, if you listen to this and you recognize yourself in this, like, yeah, I recognize I definitely used to do this too before I knew and understood these things, and then I stopped when I started understanding. But yeah, it's like sort of we don't do it on purpose. It's a playful, cute way that we're just like, "Oh, I love affection," or "I wanna hug you." But for me, I really don't wanna cross that line. I want it to be a very clear distinction. Like, no, like I can deal with my own sadness. I don't need you to fix it for me. You're not responsible for my feelings. Like, you don't have to do something that's uncomfortable to you or that even uncomfortable. You don't want to do it right now in order to make sure that I don't feel sad.
Right.
Well, now we're going into a whole thing about also being responsible for feelings. But yeah.
Right. So you specified affection and I didn't. I do like the specification. I do think that there could be potential issues with that because, like, let's say I just spoke to someone who her child was raped by a doctor, and I don't think affection comes into it all the time.
Right. It's true. Like a doctor, if anything, we say a doctor's allowed to do it. Is allowed to touch, right?
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. These things are so tricky.
But but yeah, it's very nuanced. It's just very nuanced. There's not one answer. So I do like your distinction, especially for younger kids. Maybe that's what it is.
Hmm.
For younger kids, it's affection because they also don't have the reasoning part of their
Right.
brain where you could reason with them to take a bath, to eat their food,
Exactly. Exactly.
and then as they get older, it could become more broad. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I actually while I was thinking 5 and under is, like, maybe the distinction is affection, everything else not, but I even tell this in my course, like, above 5, please do not take your children and do something to, like, don't they exactly, there's enough reason in their brain at that point, please work things out with them or, like, just take them and move them, like, please don't do that, like yeah, so I think that we could say, that after that, yeah, probably just touching them without their consent probably is, um, really not necessary. I mean, unless you're stepping in to stop them from hurting someone or something like that, actually.
Right. Again, it's very nuanced.
Right.
But I do think if we introduce the topic, they know how it feels, even on in in a specific aspect, it could help.
For sure. I mean, I even see with my kids, like, I remember we would go to actually our parents, and my kids would say before, "You tell your parents that I don't wanna hug them. I don't want them to kiss me. I don't want them" It happens to be our parents are super respectful of it, so it wasn't so hard.
Super. Yeah.
That, like, they understand the importance. So, yeah, I would come in and I would say, "This child doesn't wanna be hugged. She doesn't wanna kiss you. She doesn't want whatever." And even just that alone, I see the immense power just in that, like, it's just so powerful for a child to know that, like, yeah, I can say I don't want to do that, and it matters, and my parent will actually speak up for me and say something.
That was the next point that came to my mind. One of the big things of child sex abuse is the child doesn't necessarily trust their parent. Um, not trust. It could be a complex type of trust. Maybe that how they'll react won't be good. They won't stand up for me. They'll stand up for this other trusted adult. With respectful parenting, we show our kids, you come first. I will always stand up for you. No matter what, I will be in your corner. And another important point with that is that pedophiles or abusers actually look for children that have all these things. They might not know about body autonomy. They might not know how to say no. They might come from a chaotic home background where they don't trust their parents, even if the home background isn't chaotic. But the parenting style is authoritarian and they don't necessarily have a good connection with their parents. That's what they look for. And maybe you could speak about connection because I think that's also a very important, like, that's what we're basically talking about.
Right. So there's two things that I was thinking of. Is first of all, not all child sex abuse happens at the hands of predators. Sometimes it's like child on child or whatever. So we want it. So that's also. But if it's somebody who's specifically seeking out children, yes, they have research on this, and they do look for children who don't have a weak connection with their parents, who have weak boundaries, all the things that we're talking about here. Really, parents, and that's who they're looking for because they know that they're good prey, if you will. So yeah, and respectful parenting is all about building a relationship with your child, and the relationship comes first. Like that's the front and center, and that we prioritize relationship and we parent through relationship, and it's really about having that, yeah, rock solid. Well, I guess as much as possible connection with one's child, and that's really,
Right.
really a huge protector.
It really is. And you said respectful relationship, and you're like, you corrected yourself, respectful parenting, but that's what it is.
Right.
It's basically if you wouldn't treat an adult like this, if you wouldn't treat any other adult relationship like this, then why are you treating your child like that, right?
Exactly. Exactly, exactly, exactly. The part where it becomes tricky is an adult relationship, they're not entrusted to us to lead and guide them and teach them, and that's the part where it gets tricky. That's why parenting so often becomes all all of a sudden becomes all kinds of interesting, and we do all kinds of interesting strategies because of that. But I think that we could still apply the exact same principles of any relationship of respect while still teaching, leading, guiding, nurturing. Yeah, I still think that's possible. So, exactly. There was something else you mentioned earlier that I wanted to bring back to now I don't remember what it was. It was like knowing your body. Okay, I guess we'll come back to it. Whatever it is.
Yeah, I also thought of
Oh my
something
gosh, there were
before.
so many. There's so many things along the way. Like there's so many layers, you know?
So many layers. And they all like work together,
Yeah, exactly.
you know?
Exactly. It's not like one thing on its own, I think is still very powerful. But exactly. I think they all work together to create a real sort of almost like I think of it as
A
almost
shield.
like a shield exactly around our child. Exactly. Again, not foolproof, but still very much. I think the more of these factors they have, the stronger the shield is. Oh, I was going to say another thing that also speaking up, right? Speaking up. I think another thing that I read also there's research about is that predators will stay away from parents who speak up. So, parents who, let's say, they're in a child's house and let's say they're playing with another child, not even your own child. Okay, I'll say it like this. Let's say I'm in a room with my children and adults, and there's two children playing, and let's say one adult goes over and starts talking to them and I don't know, tickling maybe or something. And I say, I feel a little bit uncomfortable with the fact that you're tickling them. Please don't do that, or whatever it is. They will stay away from a child of a parent like that because they immediately see that the parent has really good boundaries and they see the parent is not afraid to speak up and they're like, no, don't want to go near that. So even, yeah, also that's a huge thing is that us speaking up and saying when something feels uncomfortable and naming it is also protective.
Right. And we have to do that for our kids. Someone asked, "How do I get my child, my 4-year-old child, I think it was a 4-year-old daughter, to advocate for herself when her father tickles her. My husband, her father tickles her." And at that age, you're not getting your child to advocate for themselves. You're advocating for them. They should not and will not usually be able to advocate for themselves. So that goes hand in hand to what you're saying.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Like I think that children learn to advocate for themselves by us first advocating for them. Like you said, little children are not capable of really advocating for themselves, especially with big, huge adults who are like triple their size. Yeah, they really need us to do that. And when we do that, we teach them to do that for themselves, but we also end up being ourselves just end up being the deterrent for people who are looking.
Exactly. Exactly. I want to say a story. I shared this on Instagram, but a few weeks ago, we had a guest at our house. We had a bunch of friends over, and we were sitting at the table eating the Shabbos meal. Um, and suddenly my daughter turns to me and says, "He called me sweetie." And my daughter's a teenager, and this person, our friend, I don't think had any malicious intent. He has teenagers. He's probably just, you know, called all children sweetie. This is not about him. This is about how my daughter felt about it and how I felt about it. Um, so because she's a teenager, she was able to speak up, but she still needed me to back her up. So right away he said, "Oh, like, is that a bad thing to say? Am I not supposed to say that?" I said, "Yeah, she doesn't want to be called sweetie, or she doesn't want you to call her sweetie." I don't remember the exact words. But I also want to validate the parent's experience because I did. I felt uncomfortable. I felt scared. Um, I even felt triggered because of my own experience. But it's still important
Yeah.
to back your child up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was gonna say that I actually really struggle to stand up for my children so much, like yeah, and it's something that's so uncomfortable for me, and I really like it's something I constantly work on and constantly push myself to do because I just really believe in the importance of it and how important it is. And like you were saying before, with like a child whose father is doing it, like I think that this parent who was asking it, I remember, I think we were both there. I think maybe she was worried about like I think she mentioned something about, like, my spouse might be upset or, like, now it's gonna cause friction in our relationship? And I have so much compassion for that. I have so much compassion for that, and at the same time, it's like, to me, like, yes, it might cause friction in the relationship, it might cause hurt feelings towards your spouse, whatever it is, but your spouse is an adult, your child is a child, and your child has nobody. else to advocate for them, literally nobody else. And this is so, to me, so, 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 so important. So important that they know that their body matters, their body belongs to them. Oh, I was going to say another thing is about with tickling and all these things is sometimes a child, by the way, you can make a practice out of it. You can say, like, I'm going to tickle you, and then you tell me when you want me to stop, and I'll stop right away. So you're training them to basically get used to this, especially if, let's say, you have a history, you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't done any of this before. You can start now, and you can even make games out of it. You can make games about strengthening that muscle of saying no, of consent, of checking in with their bodies and being able to, like you said, that loop, being able to recognize that doesn't feel good. Oh, right. I can say something, I will say something, and the person will stop. And so I know parents do that
Mhm.
with their children. But also, I was gonna say some of this is also about attunement. Like, for example, I have a 4-month-old right now. He can't speak. And sometimes I will tickle him also because he laughs. And I notice it's so amazing. Like, if you tune into a child, sometimes a laugh is like a full body laugh. It's like and sometimes it's a laugh, and I can tell it's a laugh that's just he can't control it. It's because when you tickle someone, it's just like, but he's not actually enjoying it. It's a laugh, but he's not, and I notice it when that happens, and I stop because 'cause I'm like, "He's not enjoying." And for me, it's even about that, like, how we're saying with little kids, like, it's about noticing the subtleties and being like, yeah, like, even if they don't voice it, their body's communicating to me and saying, "I don't like this." Like, it's involuntary, the laughing is involuntary, they can't stop themselves from laughing because it tickles, but they're not enjoying it.
It's a physiological response. It's
Exactly.
like saying when yeah, it's not the same thing, but I know of a predator that was arrested like 2 weeks ago for sexually abusing his stepdaughter, and when the wife confronted him and said, like, "Why did you do that?" He said, "Because she wanted me to." And it's something I relate to for my sexual abuse. Yes, your body has physiological responses. Things will either feel good or not good. It doesn't mean you want it.
Exactly. Exactly that. And I think tickling is so similar in that way, and I think that's why it's such a good place to practice.
Exactly.
By the way, that's why also I think predators will actually use tickling also as a first, sort of thing to see if the child will stop them or not, how far they can take it, how far they can go with it. I've heard it over and over and over again from predators themselves and also from people who have seen predators in action. A lot of them will do that. A lot of them will use tickling.
Right. Makes sense.
Mhm. Or when you said about child knowing that they can say no and all that, and this is a really important point for me in general in parenting, and this is a huge cornerstone of like respectful parenting, is that there's ideas and talking to our kids about ideas, and then there's them experiencing those ideas in their bodies. Those are two entirely different things. So you can tell a child, no one's allowed to touch you if you don't like it. If you feel uncomfortable, you could say whatever. Like, again, and I'm not against like education. I think education is important and talking about things is important. You can also tell your child, you can come to me and tell me anything. You'll always be safe. What is their
Mhm.
experience, though? Is their experience that they can say
Mhm.
no? Is their experience that you honor their bodily autonomy? Is their experience that, right? And is their experience that it's safe to come to you with things? Okay, this is another
Mhm.
huge one. With respectful parenting, we don't punish. And there's a lot of curiosity and non judgment when they come to us and they made a mistake, or even when they don't come to us, when they made a mistake and we know about it. We correct with curiosity and with compassion.
Mhm.
And so their experience with us is that it's safe to talk to my parent. It's safe to come to my parent. Very often parents will say, "But I tell my child if anything happens or whatever, it's safe to come to me. It's safe." But I'm like, exactly. But words only mean so much. A child or any human, I trust my experience much more than your words. Right?
Actions speak louder than
Yeah,
words.
that's exactly that quote comes from is there for a reason, right?
Mhm.
Exactly,
Exactly.
exactly. So if my experience with you is that every time I come to you, or even when you see me make a mistake, or that you get mad at me, or that you judge me, or whatever, I won't feel safe to come to you. By the way, I have a crazy thing to share. I have parents who will actually reach out to me and tell me that once they started coming to their child with curiosity and compassion, the children actually opened up about things that were happening to them. It really, really, really does make a difference. It makes all the difference. So even if let's say a child was abused, let's say because again all these things we can't
Mhm.
we can't necessarily prevent things for sure, but even if it does, that they can then share it with us. So maybe first of all we can stop it in its tracks and it doesn't continue, or also that we can get them the help they need, whatever it is. It's so important for our children to know that it's safe to come to us. And I think respectful parenting really, really, really creates that incredible, huge amounts of safety.
Exactly. And an important point, like scientifically, empirically, trauma from sex abuse, child sex abuse, or really any trauma is the event itself is traumatic, but what's more traumatic and what's more telling of how the person will process the trauma, how it will manifest, is what happens after. So if someone's in a car accident and they're rushed to the hospital right away and they get all their needs met, then they're going to be okay. But if someone's in a ditch and waiting for 24 hours, and they'll have much more issues, it will take much longer, to recover. It's the same thing.
Wow. Makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. I love that analogy.
So, what you're saying, even if they are abused, God forbid, hopefully not, even if they are, when they come to you, there will be safety, there will be support, there will be healing, hopefully.
Yeah, I actually love that you shared that also because I think it gives parents so much hope. I think at least I am also like I think most of us are terrified for our children to experience this, but hearing that actually what happens after matters more in a way, then it's like, oh, like yeah, if I'm there for them and if I can provide the right I don't know, the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah, even just empathy,
Right.
just
Yeah.
believing them, being there with them.
Yeah, everything, whatever it is, all the
Yeah.
things, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Empathy, being there for
Yeah.
them, support, whatever it is, then yeah, like actually they probably will be fine. Meaning I'm thinking so many adults today who speak out about other abuse, I think they were very, very alone. I think they didn't tell anybody. I think they didn't feel safe to tell. That's actually, I think, a huge theme I see. They didn't feel safe to tell anybody for years. Or when they did tell somebody, they weren't believed. Like in a way, I'm thinking like maybe that was also a huge part of the trauma.
Yeah, I just shared this on Instagram and on my social media. The average age of coming forward for child sex abuse is 52 years old. 52. Now, that's the average and of the people that do come forward. So, only about a third of cases come forward.
I believe it.
And then when I posted it, I got so many comments on TikTok of people saying, yeah, I'm older than that. I was older than that. I didn't tell. I'm 55 and I just told my husband 2 weeks ago. I was 44. I was 45. I never told this. That's a huge part of it. Secrecy and support. This is a problem with communities as a whole, that there's much more support for abusers than victims. That's why you can be in your child's corner. You can be a safe space for them where they know they'll be believed.
Right, exactly. And if they have a history of being believed, then they will trust that they'll be believed and then they'll be more likely to come to you. With respectful parenting, we also very much believe in talking to your children honestly about things and educating them honestly about things. And I think that really, really, really makes it so not shameful to talk about body parts and sexuality and all these things. I also see like a common theme with sexual abuse is that very often these things are shrouded in shame and because parents and children never talk about it. It's like a topic we never go near. It's like, and so then to say I experienced something that had to do was in the realm of that is like, first of all, maybe like so terribly embarrassing, but also maybe so like you're afraid that you're going to be met with judgment. And also it's so shameful. And yeah, I really believe in talking to children about sexuality again at every age and stage according to what they're developmentally capable of understanding. But yeah, like labeling body parts from when they're a very young age and then as they get older, just keep talking about it so that it's not something that is a shameful topic. As soon as it becomes a shameful topic, it becomes so much easier. It makes it easier or I'm going to say easier, it makes it harder for a child to talk about it with us because we never spoke about it with them.
Such a good point. I want to add that even further than that, I've spoken to a couple survivors who themselves told me they didn't know
Mm,
what was happening
mm,
or that it was abuse
mm,
until they were much older. And I will also say, children that abuse other children don't either know that that's abuse.
mm,
They're doing such terrible harm. So, for both, I think that just having the knowledge what your body is, consent, body parts, knowing what it's for, knowing yes that it feels good or whatever it is, being honest to your children about how their body works, because yes, it's their body, is so empowering. It gives them knowledge they need to know, gives them the language, and it gives them the cognition to understand what is happening
Mhm.
and not to abuse other children.
Right. That's also such an important point here is that sometimes child and child, right? Children do it without realizing, like you said, they don't even know because they weren't educated. So I think we're also just adding in here how much education is so, so important to talking to our kids about sex and sexuality. And
Exactly.
I don't know what audience we're talking to primarily, but for those who are listening who are from like an Orthodox or, religious Jewish background and like speaking about these things with sensitivity is important to you, there's a course by Ellie Chavalis called Sacred, Not Secret, that I highly recommend, where she goes through everything and talks about how to talk to your children about everything when it comes to sex and sexuality, in a way that is like mindful of our values.
That's amazing. Thanks for that resource. I'm gonna include it in
Yeah,
the
it's on her website. You could post the link.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's another very important point. Um, but I was thinking also, like, there's so many subtleties here. Like, I just gave a class last night, my last class on in the course, in my essentials course, where that's where I actually teach the essentials of respectful parenting. I give the course once a year, um, and this class was on discipline, and I mentioned basically that punishment for me crosses a huge line because what I'm doing is that I'm using my children's feelings as leverage. The idea behind punishment is basically I'm going to make you feel bad. I'm going to make you feel pain or discomfort so that you don't do this again. And so basically, I'm stepping into territory that I believe is not mine at all. I'm stepping into territory that's their feelings because that happens in their body. As soon as something's in their body, that's their territory. It's not mine. And I'm using it to as leverage to sort of be like, I'm going to use that. And to me, that's very clearly crossing a line. And somebody said, that's just straight up manipulation. And I was like, exactly.
I was just gonna say it sounds like manipulative. It sounds manipulative. That's what I was thinking the whole
But
time. Yeah.
it is, but when I say it's manipulation with punishments, most people are like, "What?" Like, we're so used to it, and it's something that's so ingrained in our culture, like, "What do you mean this is how you teach children?" It's almost like it's not even a question, like, that's just how it works, that most people are kinda like when you say that, they're like, "What? No, it's not manipulation." But it is, it is. It's a subtle form of manipulation, and to me, the less and less and less we use manipulation, the more and more our children actually it's foreign to them. The more and more they're just like, why are you going into my world and trying to do something? And I think abusers are like master manipulators. And again, because of that, I think that they actually anyone can be a victim because like they're so good at it, really. But of course,
Mhm.
like we said, it's everything comes together. But the more and more foreign manipulation is to our child, the more and more it is something that they're gonna perk up at and be like, wait, what? I don't like this. No. But if child's used to being manipulated constantly, then there's isn't that much of a difference. I mean, it's more manipulation, maybe it's like, but it's still within the same realm. Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally, 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 totally. I can I see where children see manipulation and they're like, "What?" They're just confused. They don't know what that is. Like, "What's happening? What does this person want from me?" Like, they don't understand it, you
It's
know?
foreign
I
to
see
them.
that, and it's such a yeah, it's such a good point.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I think people feel very lost when I say these things probably because they're like, "What? Parenting without punishment? What are you talking about?" But it's possible. It really is possible. We both parent that way.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I get
I try to.
right, we try to. Yeah, I guess it's
Yeah.
always that's always I like that you mentioned that because I keep mentioning the fact that it's like I'm not perfect at it at all, and it's something that I'm constantly trying to embody. And yeah, I guess it will always be a journey for me. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for me too, yeah.
So basically, with respectful communication, I guess I could bridge it to the last point that I mentioned about punishment. Because we don't punish, we actually communicate. We rely on communication as a means to get through tough moments and to discipline our children and to teach them and guide them. And because of that, our children really learn what communication, healthy communication looks like, what it looks like to consider your feelings and needs and to consider my feelings and needs and to work things out together and to problem solve. And healthy communication, when a child knows what healthy communication looks like, again, same thing. When somebody starts communicating in a way that's unhealthy, that uses manipulation or secrecy or tricks or gaslighting or I don't know, any of the things that are unhealthy about communication, again, it's foreign to them. It's much more likely for them to be uncomfortable with it or to be like, "What?" And they also maybe are better equipped to navigate difficult moments because they have so many skills. I mentioned this a lot in my course that really like so much of parenting this way really gives our children skills for life about how to communicate with other people, how to problem solve. When a child is just punished and they don't learn any of these things, it's they don't practice any of these skills. And so I think that, yeah, they actually also learn to navigate tricky moments, it may be, in a way that could protect them.
Exactly, exactly. Communication is so important because it's also part of saying no, like what we said before, but if they know how to communicate, it could really avoid a lot of trouble.
Right, exactly. Like, again, I think what you said, a lot of it has to do with saying no.
It's much more complex than saying no. It's not
Right,
just the no, it's saying this doesn't feel comfortable for me, but it's more like problem solving.
exactly, exactly. Yeah,
So that's also another point, right? Like they have problem
they
solving
do.
skills.
I did 100% because that's
Yeah.
literally my entire parenting model relies on a ton of problem solving, together with our children, and they become really good at it.
Right. And it goes together with communication, right? Like the problem solving and communication. Let's communicate what your needs are, what my needs are, and let's solve
Let's figure this out together.
how we can work this out.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, and again,
Right.
all these things sometimes many of us, I think, were raised with unhealthy forms of communication. Again, no, we're not trying to, like, shame or blame anybody, but that's what they knew. But yeah, like, all kinds of, like, let's say, the silent treatment or being passive aggressive or, being straight up aggressive, like, all these things, and the more foreign something like that is to a child, right? The more they experience just someone communicating when they're angry, someone communicating when they're upset, their parents saying it and working it out with them, their parent listening when they're angry. Like I said, the more and more I think that they're protected against really all kinds of abuse, but also this kind of abuse because anything that is like, yeah, if a person starts using the silent treatment or is passive aggressive, they're just like, no, like you can just tell me if you're angry, or you could just
Exactly.
communicate with me, or you don't have to
Exactly.
manipulate. Like, why are you not respecting what I said? Or.
Right. And this also ties into like they learn how to trust their
Mm,
instincts, right? Right away. It has to do with saying no, with communication, but with the whole feedback loop of coming to that place of knowing what they feel and trusting that, that's huge.
right. Yeah. Our feelings tell us about our needs. Our feelings are actually our guide. Our feelings are take care of us. Yeah, they're
Messages.
messages, exactly.
Mhm.
They're the red engine light being like, "Ding, ding, ding, something's going on, look at this," right?
Mm, yeah.
And when a child's feelings
Mhm.
aren't taken seriously or aren't and when we say taken seriously, I don't mean that we obey them, I just mean that we take them as something that matters, then a child learns exactly, they learn that my feelings are telling me something, my feelings and that's their instincts, right? That's them trusting that, "Oh, my feelings actually mean something." You
Mhm.
don't know how many adults I meet who actually don't trust their feelings. Right? They'll be like, "I feel this, but
Or
maybe I'm just whatever, and maybe I'm just that," like, talking themselves out of their feelings. And the thing is that, again, their feelings aren't facts, but your feelings are telling you something. So rather than talking ourselves out of our feelings, what is my feeling telling me? Let's just uncover that. And then you can make a decision about what you wanna do. But many people don't even go there because we weren't taught or we didn't have the experience actually more than anything. Not told your feelings matter, but had the experience that,
right,
yeah, definitely your
right.
feelings could be trusted to be telling you something important.
Exactly. I mean, I could relate to that. I still so many times, like when if I meet someone, for example, and I don't have like a good feeling about the person, and then I hear something, whatever, weeks, years later, and I'm like, I felt it. Maybe I didn't trust it,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just things like
Yeah,
that.
so yeah, I love that you're saying that because I literally just told my husband today that the older I get, the more and more I'm learning to trust my instincts. Yeah, the more and more I'm learning to actually notice this feels off, this doesn't feel good.
Mhm.
What's that telling me? I'm learning it's something that I'm learning now. I'm so much older than my kids are. I want our kids to learn it when they're much younger, and I see how much it helps me. I see how much it supports me, first of all, to hold boundaries and also to not get myself into situations that are I don't wanna get into. So, like,
Exactly.
of course, it will help my children with that as well, you know?
I hope people understand it because children that are raised with respectful parenting know that their parents truly want what's good for them, not what they think
Mm,
the child needs. They genuinely listen to the child take into account what they want, even if it's different from what from the parent wants, and they will always, not always, or whenever they can, or at least make sure they know it matters.
Mhm. Yeah. Wait, so are you saying basically the fact that a child has the experience that my parent takes into consideration what's going on for me and they don't decide that they know what is best for me without even checking with me what's going on for me. And that already also is abuse prevention because the child's like, "Wait, what I feel about this matters. What my experience about this," and the abuser can't be like, "No, this is actually good for you, even if it feels terrible for you," or like, "This is actually like right," meaning that yeah, they have the experience that somebody
That they trust that their parents truly want what's good for them, not what they
think
think
is
is good for
right,
them.
right, exactly. Yes, yeah, it's funny. My daughter today was saying she was like, I don't know why she was we were just like talking and then she's like, "I'm your parent. I know what's best for you." She was kind of and she's like, "What is that?" Like, "No, they don't know. Nobody knows what's best." Like. And I love that because I was like, exactly. Like, I don't know why parents say that. Like, I think that we're always trying. We might know in certain situations more about the world or more about certain things than our children, but our children know themselves best. And so we don't know what's best. I mean, we can take into consideration what our children say and take into consideration what we know and make a decision based on that. But do we know what's best? But like I think having the humility to know that we don't and to not speak in those kinds of ways. I mean, to me, like that's what respectful parenting really is also all about. It's just like it's almost like we're walking alongside our children. Yes, we're their parents and we're taking care of them, but we're walking alongside them with like humility, almost like
And with
with understanding.
that they have their own
Mhm.
instincts,
Mhm.
values,
Mhm.
wants, needs.
Exactly. Exactly. That they're their own person. And yeah,
Mm.
and we're our own person too, but we don't suddenly become them or, or suddenly know what's best for them just because we're their
They're
parents.
not us.
Exactly. 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 They don't sound exactly. They're not extensions of us.
Exactly.
Yeah. So exactly. Like there were so many times that you said things and I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a good point. And we could even like zoom out and like talk more about it. But yeah, I think that does basically cover it. And like we said, the more a child experiences these things, the more and I put the emphasis on experience because that's what our children, right? That's what their body knows, and their body is the one who responds in moments like this, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
and then I just want to like say, like even though I love how you kept bringing it in, I was trying to bring it in, I think, throughout this talk, but I just want to end with a like a note of compassion towards parents. Because like I said, I know there's different parents listening to this. Everyone's coming from their own journeys, from their own place. I'm sure everybody, like especially if you're listening to this, you really care about your children and you really want what's best for them and you really want and it could be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not doing any of this or I didn't do this or I'm not doing that." And it could bring up so much shame and guilt and like panic maybe even and
Fair.
yeah, fear exactly. I just want to say I have so much compassion for it and also that, like, I relate as a human being, like, there was a time when I didn't do any of these things, and I guess we can all start where we're at and do what we can.
It's never too late.
Exactly, exactly.
And it's also, you say this a lot, but it's also not a
Mhm.
perfect. We're not perfect. Our children are not perfect. So this is never gonna be perfect.
Yeah, it's not even about perfection. It's not about
Yeah,
perfection.
it's actually not about perfection. It's about not being perfect,
Right, you're like, not only is it about,
right?
like, not being perfect, it's about actually not being perfect, meaning, like, it's about sending the message home that we're both just human, like, that there's so much exactly going back to what I taught in my course last night, I kept saying that over and over and over again, like, that, like, I think this is about seeing the
Mhm.
humanity in us and this humanity in our children, which means that we're all journeying through life. We're always in process. We're just so human.
And communication and trusting our instincts and knowing our needs. That's literally all ties into it.
Exactly, exactly. That's really more what it's about than anything else.
Do you want to say anything for the viewers?
No, I was gonna say that I just want to end with this note of compassion, and I want to say, oh, I give this my essentials course. If you want to know more about respectful parenting, you can follow me. I do like daily posts or more or less, on Instagram, on my WhatsApp status. You can find all of that through my website, blimieheller.com. You can find out how to reach me so you can hear more about it. If you're like, I want to learn how to do respectful parenting, but I don't know the first thing about it. Yeah, so you can always hear more.
Okay, thank you so much for joining. I know it's gonna help a lot of children
Yeah, I really trust
these
that it
days.
will. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for doing the
Yeah.
work that you're doing.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Silent No More. If today's conversation moved you, taught you something new, or gave you a moment to reflect, I hope you'll share it with someone else. Together, we could create a world that listens to survivors, protects children, and breaks the silence around abuse. If you or someone you know is a survivor and needs support, you're not alone. To stay connected, follow along on Instagram at Better Safe Than Silent, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Until next time, stay informed, stay compassionate, and never be afraid to speak up.